Okay.
Hope I can say it as well as I did before. But so the transcendental field, transcendence, which is everywhere, all the time, all times, non-linear, the unified field
Yeah.
gets enlivened in us and in the universe, in everything, life nourishing, every time we meditate. And every time anyone meditates, it gets enlivened in us. When I meditate, it gets enlivened in me and in you, in everything. It's basically like the ocean, it's like another wave, something springs up. We also know that field gives birth to all of relativity, all of creation. Time is considered to be relative. So it is through us, because time is a concept that comes through the human physiology, brain physiology and all that. Whether it exists without us is hard. That's a hard one to figure out, but that's not the point as much. Let's say time exists and it is relative, which is established by many scientists, and Einstein and others. And from the Vedic understanding, from Maharishi's teaching, we know that going closer and closer to that infinite field of the transcendence is going to the source of all relativity, the source of it. And we also know that doing that is extremely purifying for us and all of creation. That's the approach that we have for us and the world and everything else. Therefore, when we go to that area, when that area is gone too, we are going to the birthplace or the source of all relativity, including time, and purifying it. So the hypothesis here, which this friend came up with, was that this is one of the ways, or one of the understandings that we can have as to how we are taking care of our karma. Because if we're going to the source of time, then, and if it's extremely purifying to do so, then we're going into our past and purifying it.
And also our future.
And our future. That's a very good point to bring out, because even in what I'm bringing out here, there's an assumption of the linear quality of time. The past influences the present, and the present influences the future, and all that. That's all true, but in addition, that it's more holographic, and it's holographic or hologram-like. So it's all connected, and we know that synchronicity and interconnectedness is very much the reality of the unified field. So doing something here now influences not just everything everywhere, but also every time, all the time, because time is relative. We're talking about the influence on the relative. But the concept which I found fascinating is we're going to the source of our existence and purifying it. That's how we're evolving, by taking care of our karma. Not just because the assumption on the very surface level has been, well, once we start meditating, once we start doing more spiritual things and practices, then from that point on, we're taking care of ourselves better. But in fact, according to this theory, it would be bigger than that, because we're going to our history, our personal history here, wherever we've been, whenever we've been, and purifying it from there. I'm obviously not just talking about in this body, this time.
That's what I was thinking right now.
You know,
other reincarnations and
exactly.
everything, and future ones.
And future ones. So we're purifying all of that simultaneously. I think this is connected, and it must be connected, with this lesson that Maharishi taught, not so much as a lesson, but I had such a huge aha experience about it, is that it was on my teacher training, and he was bringing out that every time we meditate and transcend, literally every time the mantra becomes quieter and more refined, we are developing all of the higher states of consciousness at the same time. The way it was originally laid out, because of the simplicity of the Western mind, it was that, you know, waking, sleeping, dreaming, add transcendence, and you eventually get to CC, and then you eventually get to GC.
Cosmic consciousness, God
consciousness, unity consciousness, sequentially. And yes, that is true in terms of the unfoldment and the realization and all that.
Yeah, but I had the
Yes.
unity consciousness experience when I learned to meditate.
Exactly.
So.
But we're talking about the
Yeah.
realization, the embodiment of those higher states. But the assumption, because of our limited thinking, had been in the past that you don't develop GC until you get to CC, and you don't develop UC until you get to GC, and et cetera, et cetera. But in fact, while that is true, it's not only that, it's that we're developing CC, GC, UC, and whatever else comes after that every time we meditate. It unfolds in a sequence in terms of the realization and the embodiment of it, but the development of it is going on all the time that we're meditating. And,
Makes sense.
and not just when we're meditating, because we're enlivening that field all the time when we settle down. And we bring it out, and the stabilization of all that is in the bringing it out into our activity. So we're enlivening all higher states of consciousness from meditating into all that we're doing. So that's it. Hi.
Over here.